The Galactic Council chamber fell into absolute silence as the massive containment field flickered to life. Inside the shimmering blue barrier, the creature known across 17 star systems as the Void Reaper coiled its obsidian scales, each one capable of deflecting plasma fire. Its 4 crimson eyes swept across the assembled delegates with predatory intelligence. Ambassador Zixthor of the Krellian Empire adjusted his translation collar, his 3 hearts pounding in syncopated fear. "Honored council members," he began, his voice trembling despite decades of diplomatic training. "We have exhausted every protocol. The Void Reaper has destroyed 4 military outposts, consumed the populations of 2 mining colonies, and has proven immune to every weapon in our arsenal." The creature, though calling it merely a creature seemed inadequate, was nearly 15 meters of pure apex predation. Its serpentine body rippled with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed hypnotically, a hunting mechanism that had paralyzed countless victims before their swift demise. Rows of crystalline fangs, each the size of a Krellian warrior, dripped with acidic venom that hissed as it struck the containment field's floor. "The humans volunteered a solution," Zixthor continued, unable to hide his skepticism. "They claim to have expertise in dealing with apex predators." A chorus of concerned chirps, clicks, and subsonic rumbles filled the chamber. The humans were the newest members of the Galactic Council, admitted only 3 standard cycles ago. Their world was a death trap by any civilized standard: crushing gravity, toxic atmosphere fluctuations, massive predators, microscopic killers, and weather systems that could level cities. Yet somehow they had not only survived, but thrived. The chamber doors opened with a pneumatic hiss. What entered was not what anyone expected. Instead of a battalion of human warriors in their intimidating combat armor, or perhaps one of their brilliant scientists with complex equipment, a single small human walked through. She couldn't have been more than 1 meter tall, with golden hair tied in what humans called pigtails, wearing a bright yellow garment covered in images of earth creatures. In her tiny arms she clutched a brown stuffed animal. "This is your solution?" High Chancellor Mordax's voice boomed from his floating platform, his tentacles writhing in agitation. "A human juvenile? This is madness. We called for help, not a sacrifice." The human ambassador, Dr. Sarah Chen, stood calmly beside the child. "This is Emma Rodriguez, age 6 Earth years. And before you protest further, I should mention that on Earth, humans have coexisted with apex predators for millennia. We've domesticated wolves into companions, we keep reptilian predators as pets, and our children regularly interact with creatures that could easily harm them. That creature," Zixthor pointed at the Void Reaper, "has a bite force that could crush a battleship hull. Its neural toxin can shut down any known nervous system in seconds." "It has killed thousands," Dr. Chen nodded. "Yes, because you've been treating it like a monster. We treat our predators like what they really are. Intelligent beings with needs and behaviors we can understand." Emma, seemingly oblivious to the cosmic significance of the moment, walked toward the containment field. Her small shoes squeaked on the polished floor. The council members watched in horror, some covering their optical organs, unable to witness what they assumed would be a gruesome death. "Emma, sweetheart," Dr. Chen called gently, "what do you remember about big animals?" The little girl paused, her face scrunched up in concentration. "Stay calm, move slow. Let them sniff. Don't show teeth unless smiling. Good girl. Now remember, just like with Luna at the sanctuary." The containment field lowered. The galaxy held its breath. The Void Reaper's massive head swiveled toward the small human, its 4 eyes focusing with laser precision. A low rumble emanated from its chest cavity, a sound that had been the last thing countless beings had heard. The creature's body tensed, coiling like a spring loaded with enough kinetic energy to shatter reinforced steel. Emma stood perfectly still, her brown eyes wide but unafraid. She slowly extended one small hand, palm up, fingers relaxed. The dragon, for that's what the humans called such creatures in their mythology, lowered its enormous head. Its nostrils, each large enough to swallow the child whole, flared as it drew in her scent. The bioluminescent patterns along its scales began to shift, changing from the aggressive reds and purples to softer blues and greens. "Nobody move," Dr. Chen whispered urgently to the council. "No sudden sounds." Emma took a small step forward, then another. The Void Reaper's eyes tracked her movement but made no aggressive motion. When she was close enough to touch the creature, she slowly reached up and placed her tiny hand on the tip of its snout, just between the nostrils. The dragon's eyes closed halfway, and an entirely new sound emerged from its throat, a deep, resonant purr that vibrated through the chamber floor. "Good dragon," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. "Pretty dragon. Are you lonely? I think you're lonely." What happened next would be analyzed by xenopsychologists for decades to come. The most feared predator in known space, the Void Reaper that had evaded capture for years and resisted every attempt at containment or elimination, slowly lowered its massive head until it rested on the ground before the small human child. Emma smiled. That unique human expression that showed teeth but somehow conveyed pure joy rather than aggression. She leaned forward and gently kissed the dragon's nose, right between those four fearsome eyes. The Void Reaper's tail, which had been twitching in predatory anticipation, began to sway slowly from side to side. The creature released a long, contented sigh that sounded remarkably like relief. "I'll be damned," Ambassador Zixthor breathed, his translator barely able to convey his astonishment. Emma turned back to the assembled council, still keeping one hand on the dragon. "He's not mean. He's just scared and hungry, and nobody was being nice to him. Can I give him a snack?" Dr. Chen approached carefully, pulling out a container of protein synthesized to match the Void Reaper's dietary requirements. Emma took a handful and offered it to the dragon, who delicately plucked it from her palm with a gentleness that contradicted everything the galaxy knew about the creature. High Chancellor Mordax's voice was barely a whisper. How is this possible?" Dr. Chen smiled. "Humans evolved alongside predators. We learned that sometimes the difference between a monster and a friend is simply understanding, respect, and a little bit of fearless compassion, things that are apparently in short supply in the so-called civilized galaxy." Emma was now sitting cross-legged next to the Void Reaper's head, showing it her stuffed animal. "This is Mr. Snuggles. He's a bear. Do you have a name?" "I think you should have a name." "Can I call you Midnight?" The dragon rumbled its approval. The Galactic Council chamber remained silent, but it was no longer the silence of fear. It was the silence of profound realization that perhaps the humans, from their deadly little world, understood something fundamental about life in the universe that the rest of them had forgotten. Sometimes the most dangerous beings in the cosmos simply needed someone brave enough, or perhaps foolish enough, to treat them with kindness, and sometimes that someone was a 6-year-old girl with pigtails and a stuffed bear named Mr. Snuggles.